Hello everyone, this is Shaitan bringing you another game from MLG Orlando. With us, we have spawning as the red Zerg in the south position on Lost Temple, ViBE, and spawning over on the left side and close by air position as the blue Zerg, we have Stephano. Now, these two players have never met before. This is the first time that they're playing, and it's very high stakes. The winner of this match is going to continue on in the losers bracket, the championship losers bracket, and they will go on to face Groovy. You can see here that the Overlords are going to see each other. They're going to know exactly where their opponents have spawned, and this is going to lend itself toward a macro game because the Overlords are going to be able to just park over the opposing hatchery and see exactly when the pool timing is, exactly when the gas timing is, and you can always win in ZvZ by just being one drone ahead by your opponent and mirroring their action in every single way. So this is going to lend itself to both players probably going hatch first and developing toward a long macro game. The players can always expand away from each other, taking the third back here in their pocket expansion, or maybe even the gold, and then continuing on and splitting the map down. So we'll see exactly how far it goes, but there shouldn't be any sort of early pool shenanigans. You can see that both players are already up to 15 drones. They don't look to be making a pool. They're probably going to be sending their drones out to be making the hatcheries if they're natural at any moment. You can see that Stephano's actually doing so, as well as ViBE. We'll see if either of them decides to be a little more greedy and make drones before making their pool. And I think that both of them might actually do so. There's really no reason not to. It's sort of a game of chicken here where the Overlord can see exactly what's going on. They can see that no spawning pool is there, so they don't need to move out. They're both up to 17 supply right now, each of them having 16 workers with no spawning pool in sight, although Stephano does appear to be wanting to make his. He does, whereas ViBE actually takes his extractor first. It'll be interesting to see if he's doing this to sort of put on some sort of baneling aggression, or if he wants to transition straight into roaches. Now, ZvZ is a very interesting matchup compared to the other ones in that everything is balanced on such a razor edge. You can win just by being one drone ahead of your opponent and just maintaining that economic lead while you simply do everything that they do. But the general flow of things, assuming that there's no early pool, is that you end up seeing some sort of sling-bling aggression to sort of punish greedy play that tries to go directly for roaches or builds too many drones. And after that those very micro-intensive battles sort of reach a stalemate, you get a transition into a mid-game composition of Roach and Fester. Lately, though, there has been a trend away from Roach and Fester with some players such as Nesky and Locira and other players trying it out as well, moving toward a mid-game composition of Mutalisk backed up with a bunch of spine crawlers defending the natural. And this map actually lends itself toward that. The path to the natural is not excessively wide. You can sort of wall it off with maybe 4 or 5 spine crawlers, and you layer those 2 thick, so you get a nice big wall of 8 spine crawlers to fend off any sort of roach aggression while you build up to a bunch of Mutalisks, and then you use those Mutalisks to maintain map control, go around doing as much economic damage as you can, and taking a third or fourth or whatever. Both players, however, are going to be going for a baneling nest. You can see here that ViBE is actually able to scout everything going on in Stephano's base. Scouting is very, very easy in Zerg vs. Zerg, at least in the early stages, because nothing can catch up to the speedlings other than other speedlings themselves, so you can almost always run a set of links into your opponent's base to see what's going on. So ViBE has a very good idea of what's going on. He knows the pool is finished, the baneling nest is going up, whereas Stephano hasn't had a chance to scout, but his opening is going to leave him very safe to the baneling opening of ViBE, as their baneling nests are going to finish at almost identical times. Both players are also getting a spine crawler just to be able to get that first initial hit on any banelings that are coming in to hopefully whittle them down. Because remember, it does take 2 banelings to kill off any drones, which means you can let one go by quite safely. The first deviation in play is happening right now, though. Stephano is droning up. Oh, I guess ViBE is actually catching up as well, but Stephano is taking his second gas at his natural expansion, whereas ViBE is still on 1 gas, but ViBE is going to be able to scout this. There's this dance going on right now, but the 2 Zerglings do get into the base. They're going to see that Stephano hasn't actually teched anything different, but he is going to be aware that the second gas is going up, and he's going to know that his opponent is trying to go for something that is a bit more gas intensive than just base. Stephano is also getting his Evo Chamber over at his natural, creating a bit of a choke so that the Zergling run by like we just saw can't happen again. This Evo Chamber will probably be used for +1 ranged attack because roaches are just so strong in the mid game of ZvZ, and if you're going for Mutalisk, you end up trying to save most of your gas to get those Mutalisks as soon as they pop up. Stephano is trying to take out his back rocks. He's putting those Zerglings to use. No use letting them just sit there not doing anything. Whereas ViBE is transitioning directly into the Roach Warren. He doesn't have an Evo Chamber yet, but however he is teching to a very fast lair compared to his opponent. He is getting his 3rd gas actually right now. So the Evo Chamber is also going up. So both of them seem to be heading on a path to go mass roaches in the mid game. Nothing too specific here. Meanwhile, Stephano is also getting his lair. Both players mirroring each other quite well. Roach production has begun for ViBE. He's just getting a few roaches. I think from the looks of it that both players are trying to just sort of gearing up so that they don't fall behind in the army battle. Neither of them is cutting drones. It doesn't look like they're trying to mass up a huge army for any sort of attack. They're very even on drones. Well, they were even until Stephano jumped ahead to 52 drones, but they both have about 45 to 50 drones. They're trying to maintain a certain amount of economic parity rather than going for any sort of huge timing attack. Their +1 is going to finish about the same time with about 20 seconds of difference between them, but we see here that ViBE is actually going for a very, very fast infestation pit, starting it up almost as soon as his lair finishes. Meanwhile, Stephano has taken his 3rd base. He's looking to sort of go into the later stages of this game. We see that Stephano unfortunately got kind of supply capped. He had to build 8 Overlords, but he shouldn't have any issues with that right now. Glial Reconstitution is starting up for Stephano. His roaches are going to have the micro advantage over his opponents. He'll be able to arrange them to get the better concave, and when your roaches have limited range, you want to have the maximum amount of them doing damage at once. He's going to poke in with the Lings, see what ViBE has in front, and probably pull away. There's no way, with about even roach numbers, 13 to 10, the advantage actually going to ViBE, but he's going to be able to poke in there and do any sort of damage. We also see that ViBE is taking his 3rd base, a little bit slower than Stephano, but not in any sort of meaningful fashion. Both players are now on 4 extractors. ViBE is actually starting up pathogen glands. He's going to want to start infestor production when that reaches 30 out of 80 completion rate, which means that they'll pop out with enough energy to cast fungal growth. Stephano, on the other hand, is getting +1 Carapace and +2 missile attacks. These roaches are going to have the upgrade advantage, but remember that fungal growth bypasses any sort of armor, and that means that it's going to be very, very effective against a pure roach army coming from Stephano. Meanwhile, Stephano is getting the burrow. If he continues on to get burrow movement, and ViBE does not have any sort of detection in front of his base, this can do devastating damage to his economy. I know I've had this happen to me a couple of times. One thing to note also that's important in ZvZ is you can have almost perfect vision of everything that's going on, assuming that your opponent isn't going Hydro or Mutalisk. Look here, we can see on ViBE's vision, he has Overlord spread out everywhere in front of the, across the map. He can see any time the opponent is moving out, and similarly, Stephano has the exact same vision. He can see the entire path on the way from his opponent's base to his base. ViBE does have Infestors coming out. He's going to be up to 4 very soon. He's going to be a little bit behind on the missile attacks, but that's okay. The Infestors should be enough to give him the advantage in any sort of battle that's going on, assuming even engagement strength. Stephano is expanding to his gold well before ViBE is. ViBE should be moving on to take this expansion very soon if he doesn't want to fall behind. It doesn't look like he's going to be going for some type of huge timing attack. He's actually significantly behind in supply by 40 supply. I'm not exactly sure how that happened. It looks like he just skimped a lot on his back row, and he hasn't really had a chance to catch up on the roaches. I wonder if it's because he's been missing injects. No, it looks like his queen energy is just very low. Maybe it's because he just didn't have... Wonder if a macro hatchery would help him out, but he's just significantly behind in the roach army. Right now we have 45 to 20 roaches with another 13 roaches coming from Stephano. I don't know if 4 Infestus is going to be enough to overcome this deficit. We have Stephano on the meanwhile teching up to... ViBE is actually teching up to Hydralisk to sort of buffer this army at a certain point when the roaches are too large in number. The back ones can't actually do damage, so they're just kind of milling around uselessly, but Hydras with their greater range can actually do some significant damage from the back lines while the roaches buffer them from taking any damage. So it's a valuable contribution to a mid-game Zerg army, especially here with this Roach Hydra Infestor army. I think on paper it should beat a pure Roach army, but the pure numbers that are on Stephano's side might be too much for ViBE to overcome. Here's the first engagement. He's actually going to catch about half of the army out of position. We'll see if this is enough to take out the army. Meanwhile, Stephano is actually feeling so confident in this battle. He takes about 6 roaches to take out the back rocks over here, but the battle is actually going pretty poorly for him. The roaches are falling, but the Hydralisk and ViBE are able to do significant damage. Meanwhile, they're actually taking out almost every single roach in this army. Supplies are still in Stephano's favor. He's able to remax with 30 roaches, but now supplies are brought back to even as ViBE does the same with an additional 20 roaches. But ViBE needs to be aware that these back rocks are down. He's going to lose a lot of drones here as these roaches run in. He's actually running his army here. He sees this happening. He's actually going to lose a couple of drones. So Stephano is taking out a few, but there's not that much damage going on. These roaches are just going to die in vain. He does burrow though, so ViBE is going to need to make an overseer to be able to take these down. ViBE is making another 3 infestors, and while he's attacking the front, I think as soon as he leaves, these roaches are going to pop up. ViBE is like having to multicast really, really hard. He needs to split up his army to make sure that he's not going to lose on both fronts, but I don't think he has enough units at the front right here. All he has are a couple of Hydras, and he's losing to about the 30 roaches of Stephano that are pushing into his front. He's pulling his drones. I think he just had too many units here trying to take out these 6 roaches, and that's allowing Stephano to do terrible damage here. Stephano's multitasking is really good. He's pulling the army over into the main to do damage here, while the rest of the army is kind of caught up engaging these 5 roaches here, while the majority of Stephano's army is just doing terrible damage inside of the main. I think this is going to be GG for ViBE. His supplies are plummeting. He's down over 50 supply to Stephano. Stephanos supply just keeps going up. He's actually adding on a macro hatchery. He's on 4 bases to ViBE's 3. The worker count is actually 69 to 50. This does not look good for ViBE. I don't think there's anything he can do to come back from this. The roaches are in his base. Any sort of reinforcements coming from ViBE are just going to trickle in without any sort of order to them, and they're going to be able to be picked up. He might be able to clean up this tiny army inside of the main, but he's actually lost. He's 29 workers behind. He's 1 base behind. In terms of the upgrade, it looks like it's 2-2 for Stephano versus the 2-0 for ViBE. Everything is going in Stephano's favor. Expect GG any second. This game is over. Stephano has doubled supplies with ViBE. This is just the formality of it.